On a Wednesday morning in September, a private investigator knocked on Sarah's door. She had never hired him. She had never met him. He had been hired by someone else, someone who, like Sarah, had believed she was the only one. His name was Daniel, and for 11 years he had been the perfect husband to two different women in two different cities, living two entirely separate lives. This is the story of how one man built a perfect lie, and how karma arrived not as revenge, but as mathematics. Daniel was the kind of man people trusted immediately. He was an architect, successful, but not flashy. He drove a modest car, wore clean shirts, remembered names. When he smiled, it reached his eyes. When he listened, he made you feel like the only person in the room. Sarah met him at a friend's dinner party in the autumn of 2012. He called her the next day. He brought flowers on their third date. Not roses, but a favorite flower, which he had remembered her mentioning briefly in passing. They married 18 months later. The wedding was small. Daniel preferred it that way. His family was distant, he explained. His parents had passed. He was, in many ways, a man who had built himself from nothing. Sarah admired that about him. She had no reason not to. What Sarah did not know was that 300 miles away, there was another home, another kitchen with coffee brewing in the morning, another woman who also believed she was the only one. Her name was Claire. Daniel had married Claire in 2010, 2 years before he met Sarah. Claire also remembered the flowers he had brought on their third date. She also remembered how he had listened, really listened, like no one else ever had. She also admired that he had built himself from nothing, because Daniel had told her the exact same story. For 11 years, Daniel lived between two lives with the precision of a military operation. He worked as a traveling architect, a perfect cover. Weeks away were explained by projects in other cities. Holidays were split with surgical care. Birthdays were never missed. He kept 2 calendars, color-coded, locked behind a 6-digit password. He maintained 2 phones, 2 email accounts, 2 sets of friends who never overlapped. He paid 2 mortgages from 2 separate bank accounts, funded by 1 salary stretched to its absolute limit. For 11 years, the numbers held, until they didn't. It began with a credit card statement, a card Claire had never seen before, arriving in an envelope addressed to Daniel at their home. A card with charges in cities she recognized, cities Daniel had claimed to be working in alone. Restaurants, hotels, a jewelry store. Claire hired a private investigator on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, the investigator had found Sarah. He knocked on her door at 9 in the morning while Daniel was, as far as she knew, attending a client meeting. He was not at a meeting. He was in Claire's kitchen, drinking coffee, completely unaware that his life was collapsing. The investigator showed Sarah a photograph. It was Daniel, standing in front of a house she did not recognize, next to a woman she had never seen, holding a child who had his eyes. Sarah sat down on the floor of her hallway. She sat on that floor for a long time. Daniel received 2 phone calls within minutes of each other that afternoon. The first was from Claire. The second was from Sarah. He did not answer either. He drove instead, for 3 hours, in no particular direction, as if distance could dissolve what had already been found. It could not. Within 72 hours, both marriages had been dissolved. Within 30 days, Daniel's architectural firm had lost most of its clients. Word travels in professional circles. It always does. Within 6 months, Daniel faced fraud charges. 2 households, 1 salary, Years of financial deception documented in tax filings. He lost the firm. He lost both homes. He lost the carefully constructed identity of the man who had built himself from nothing, because it turned out he had built himself from lies. And lies, unlike houses, cannot bear the weight of time. Sarah and Claire never met, but they exchanged one message. Claire wrote, "I keep thinking I should have known." Sarah wrote back, "He was very good at this. That was never about us." And somewhere, in the silence of a rented room, Daniel understood that too. The truth always surfaces. It just chooses its own timing. If this story revealed the truth behind the lies, subscribe to Karma Unmasked and hit the notification bell. Every week we expose one more hidden betrayal. They thought they'd get away with it. We make sure they don't. Remember, karma doesn't forget, and neither do we.